Hey, runi rahili lania awida iuga ipaliga hololawa kei kuali oili olonopu ho alamena luik marie. Ka uia ka uha ke a ipalawai o pavili ka makani o haalele pakai de duhewa ke kanakapi ikulo ola na iale. Meha ta ulula inuita liau I hopulu ia au ke aluando ukua uite maulo
The island of Lanai is the 6th largest island in the Hawaiian archipelago. With 141 square miles of land, today it is home to over 3,000 residents. The island was formed about 1.5 million years ago by a single volcano, but one of the most intriguing features of the island's geological history is that low land bridges once connected it to Maui, Molokai, and Kaho'olawe. As the Ice Age ended some 10,000 years ago, channels formed and the islands parted. Hawaiian tradition recounts a time of the gods, when Kane Kanaloa and their younger brother Kane Pua'a visited Lanai at Callaloo on the island's leeward coast, and the ancient mele Ananai Kaulahea commemorates the peaceful visit of the goddess Pele and her clan. Tradition also speaks of a time when Lanai was inhabited by evil spirits, making it a difficult place for human habitation. Kaulula'au, the son of a Maui chief, rid the island of these troublesome spirits with the aid of an ivory spear point imbued with special powers. Because of his brave deeds, Lanai is affectionately known as Lanai a Kaulula'au. Settlement of Lanai began around 1200 AD, much later than the islands of Molokai and Maui that possessed more natural resources. People lived in both coastal and upland areas. Most villages were small and located at some spot favorable for cultivation or for fishing. Like the other inhabited Hawaiian islands, land divisions known as ahupua'a were established on Lanai. Each of these divisions usually reached from the sea to the mountains and included all of the biological resource zones of the island. There are 13 ahupua'a on Lanai. The largest is the ahupua'a of Ka'a that lies on the western shoreline and includes the stunning landscape known as Keahiakavelo.
Keahiakavelo, the fire made by Kavelo, is one of the most significant wahipana, or those storied sacred landscapes of ancient Lanai.
In the 1860s and 1870s, many Hawaiians traveled to visit this special place, leaving lei made from the island's maile lauli'i, a very small-leafed maile, and the famous po lehua, the purple lehua of Lanai. The inland valley of Mauna Lei, because of its dependable source of water, became the primary locale for growing kalo, and the remains of ancient agricultural activity in the valley are still evident today.
We are in Meymaneh Valley, and during the ancient times, this valley provided provisions for about 1,000 Hawaiian people back in the ancient days. What happened is the people that lived up in the valley, they grew kalo and breadfruit and sweet potatoes, and the people that lived on the shoreline provided all the proteins like fish, turtle, and they would trade off like they did in the ancient days. Meymaneh Valley is special because this area provided majority of the water to the island.
On the leeward side of the island, the coastal village of Callaloo was a religious center and a vigorous fishing community.
I kawa kahiko, o ka hana labai a he mea nui no na Hawaii. Kupuna tell us that in ancient times, the practices, the works of the fisher people was one of the greatest jobs, one of the greatest professions of all ancient Hawaii. And here at Callaloo, we have this famous story of fisheries of the Aku. There's this wonderful account of a great fisherman, Makale, who came to Lanai from Hawaii Island and engaged with Palawai and with Callaloo and the various fisher people of this landscape. Their main fish were Aku, which even Kamehameha III claimed as the kapu fish of the king during the period of the Mahele, when Hawaiian laws were codified. And one other wonderful fish of this landscape just behind us on the oceanside cliff, Paliokaholo, were the opi makaiuli, these beautiful large opi with a yellow-green circle around the outer edge. Those were the choice kapu fish of this land. But fishing, of course, is the big occupation of the people. They fed the meat to those who were the mahiai, the cultivators of the land in the uplands.
Lanai was a peaceful island, but it could not escape the political tides that swirled across the channels. Kalani Opu'u, the ruling chief of Hawaii Island, launched an attack on Maui in 1778. When the attack failed, his war party descended on Lanai, killing many people, consuming all the food resources, and burning forests and fields. On February 25, 1779, a sighting of Lanai was made by the ships Resolution and Discovery, two vessels that were part of Captain Cook's expedition. They did not land on the island, but recorded passing by its south and west coast. Over the next 2 decades, ships report passing by and trading with canoes offshore, but not landing on the island. However, there is reason to consider prior Western contact. According to oral tradition, in the 1500s, a shipwreck, possibly Spanish, occurred on the windward coast of Lanai. The site became known as Keomuku, or White Ship. In 1794, native accounts estimated the population of Lanai to be about 6,000 people, who were said to be bounteously fed by the land. One of the island's famous residents was Kamehameha Ekahi, the warrior chief who united the islands. He established a recreational residence on Lanai at Callaloo.
We know that in the 1780s, 1790s, Kamehameha lived here, residing at this house site, which is built up on the edge of a cliff. There's actually, when we were doing some work to uncover some of the weed overgrowth and things, we found a beautiful papamu, a Hawaiian konane checkerboard. And you can just imagine, thinking back, because the house site, the boundaries of it are set up, then you can see the lanai, the flat open area in front of it, and this papamu sitting there. You can imagine the chief, Kamehameha, with perhaps one of the lanai chiefs being subjugated to him, but the chiefs having a discussion and playing a game of konane, testing the wit of one another, you know.
The American Protestant missionaries arrived in the Hawaiian Islands in 1820 to spread the Christian gospel. By 1825, 4 missionary schools were established on Lanai, and in 1828, the first meeting house, or church, was built. As on the other islands, native Hawaiians on Lanai experienced tragic declines in their community due to introduced disease, and by the 1830s, the population on the island was less than 2,000 people. Goats and sheep were also introduced in the 1830s. Eventually, many of these animals ran wild, and the destruction of native forests on Lanai seriously affected the water table. The introduction of hoofed animals to the islands caused serious destruction and degradation of unique and fragile native ecosystems, not only on Lanai, but on all of the major Hawaiian islands. Lack of water on Lanai remains a serious issue to this day. In 1848, Kamehameha III initiated a new system of land tenure. He apportioned land to the government, the chiefs, and the people, and also reserved some land for himself. This was the beginning of private property ownership in Hawaii. On Lanai, 5 ahupua'a were given to chiefs, and the remaining 8 were kept by the government and the king. 55 native tenants were granted small house lots and planting fields. By this time, the population had dwindled to about 600. The Mormon Church established a colony on Lanai in 1854 in the Palawai Basin. Several Mormon elders from Utah oversaw the colony, whose members were native Hawaiians. Conflict between the Mormon Church and the U.S. government caused the Mormon elders to be called back to Utah, and the little colony of Hawaiian Latter-day Saints was left to shift for itself.
So this is Palawai Basin, basically the remnants of the shield volcano that formed Lanai. Around the 1850s, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints aimed to establish a Mormon settlement here, city of Joseph in the Pacific, and they referred to this place as the Valley of Ephraim. They had animals, they grew crops. This is probably one of the areas with the richest soil on the island because, there was a lot of volcanic activity here.
In 1861, a new Mormon leader appeared on Lanai. Recently converted in Salt Lake City, Walter Murray Gibson set about taking over the management of the colony. One of the first things he did was to raise money through contributions from the Hawaiian converts to purchase the ahupua of Palawai. Gibson managed to raise several $1,000s for the purchase and then proceeded to register the land in his own name. He was subsequently excommunicated from the church but refused to surrender Palawai. The Mormon settlement disbanded, but Gibson became a prominent presence not only on Lanai but in the government of the kingdom as well. Over time, Gibson continued to purchase and lease land on Lanai. He established a ranching operation in the upland region at Ko'ele. Wool and mutton were shipped to Honolulu from Avalua on the north shore of the island. At the time of Gibson's death in 1888, he held the fee simple title to 5 ahupua on the island and the leasehold rights to all other lands, except for a few parcels belonging to native residents. His ranching operation had grown to include over 50,000 sheep, as well as 600 horses and 500 head of cattle. Gibson's daughter Tallulah and her husband Frederick Hazelden inherited his estate. They formed the Lanai Land and Development Company in an effort to promote economic growth. At the close of the 19th century, the native Hawaiian population on Lanai had been reduced to 200 persons who made their living through fishing, farming, and sheep herding, clinging fast to the life they loved and their island home, Lanai a Kaulula'au.
Ai kuni kai kalani a uide u kai palika holola ke kuali o iolon puho alamena lui kamalie ka uia ka uha ke I Palawai o pavili kamakani o hale pa kai ke kuihevo ke kanakapi kula o Lanai hale meha ka ulula au inui kali au iho bulu ia au He aloha no tau ua waire a mauroa.